So I am a single girl, and I've been, there's people that are in your friends group that are always dating someone, or there's people that just aren't, or there's those people that are constantly in these long relationships at the end and then they find another long relationship. And I've just been one of those people that I just don't. I lose patience with people so quickly that I'm like, this was fun, but I'm not going to put up with this any longer, and so that was fun, and we're done now. And so a lot of my friends have really good advice for being in relationships, but I feel like I have really good advice for breaking up, because I've done it way more than a lot of other people I know have, because they've been with the same person for a really long time. So you can't have experiences breaking up with them if you're still with them. So spoiler alert, the story is not about me like finding love at the end of it, being a single girl all my life and then suddenly finding the right one. But instead it's kind of about that one of the most important declarations of love, or ways to declare love, is just having the patience to help, and humility, I would say, to help other people get where they need to go, and how we do that kind of through our relationships. So when I graduated from college, yes, I was 19, and I had recently, like so many other people, just fallen in love with sustainable agriculture, and I wanted to be a farmer. And so I moved to Texas, where the farming is great. I don't know if you know, but they're in a biblical drought right now. So I went to Texas, and I was going to be a farmer in Texas. I moved to Austin, and I had just read the Lonesome Dove series. I don't know if anybody's read that book, but it's really great. You should read it. And it was my favorite. As I was preparing to go, it was like this epic journey. I was entering on this next phase of my life, and I was like, I want to change my name, and I'm going to be Clara, who's one of the characters in Lonesome Dove. She's like you'll have to read the book. And it's an epic story. So I was really excited to move to Texas, where there's cowboys and large open expanses of space and really dry soil. And so I did, and I lived in a single wide trailer in the middle of central Texas with no air conditioning. And I made my first pie crust there, and I realized that probably what was wrong is that room temperature in my house was somewhere around 98 degrees. And that butter just doesn't behave the same way as it does at 75 degrees. So it was really dense. But on this farm, I met this boy, and his name was Matt, and he came to the farm all the time. He actually lived in a house that the farmer I worked for owned, and it looked kind of like a tin can. It was a 2-story little apartment built in the backyard of this house, and it had corrugated tin siding, so it was very shiny, and it was really small. It had like one of those TVs like you'd have in a hospital mounted up on this wall, because there was no room for like an entertainment center. And it had a spiral staircase going upstairs, where there was a lofted bed that had a ladder to go up to it, and a little porch. It was very charming. And he loved to farm and garden as well, and he had this big garden in the backyard and all these chickens. And on our farm, we couldn't drink the water there because the well you couldn't drink the water out of the well, and some of the water we pumped out of the river, and it was really dirty because it had already flowed through all of Austin before it got to our farm. But we still swam in it because it was so fucking hot. So I swam in it, and every time I was like, oh, and then, for a minute. So we couldn't drink our water, so I had these big, like 5-gallon jugs, and at least once a week, I'd have to go to town, which was actually only 5 minutes away. Our farm was 5 minutes away from downtown Austin. It was amazing. It was the greatest location. But I'd have to go to town every once in a while to get water, and so I'd go to Matt's house, because he had a hose, and I'd fill up my water, and then I'd have to carry these big, heavy jugs to the car, and oh gosh, help, load them into my car. And so, lo and behold, Matt and I started dating. We went to, we did dating things that you do in Austin, which is like you go to half-price burger night at the bar downtown, and we went to the free shows that were hosted by the country music radio station, and go swimming in Barton Springs, which is this amazing, amazing outdoor spring-fed swimming pool in the middle of Austin. And we would watch the Lonesome Dove miniseries over and over again, because he liked Westerns too, and I was like, this is perfect, this is great. And lo and behold, it was great. It was great. And I guess because I was sort of off on my own, and I was, I didn't have any people near me that were close to me, and so suddenly it was really comforting to have this person that I felt close to, even though there were, it was obvious from the get-go that this guy was not the guy for me. He didn't talk really much at all, and I talk a lot, and so it just didn't ever feel like it would really work. But after, a couple months of this, it just became really comfortable, and it sort of, it just continued to feel comfortable and sweet and nice, and and I told him that I loved him, which was the first and I think only boy that I've dated that I've said that to, and so it was like kind of a big deal for me. And but then eventually, the summer kind of started coming to an end, and things sort of fell apart on the farm that I was on, and I really wasn't happy there, and I decided I wanted to move back to North Carolina and start my own farm. Great idea, right? Make my first $1 million. And so I looked into, I had this whole plan, and I had some land that I was going to rent, and I was all set, and I moved off the farm, and I moved into the tin can with Matt because I didn't have anywhere else to go. And it was, so I spent these few weeks in this very small place with this man that I'd become very close to, knowing that I was about to leave him. For about 6 weeks we lived like that, and at first it was really sweet, and we did all these sweet domestic things, and I took care of his chickens while he was going to work, and I worked at this little coffee shop. I could ride my bike there from the little tin can house, and it was very sweet. And I started to looking forward to where I didn't know where I was going. Suddenly what I had started to feel really, really precious, and I didn't want it to go away. And so I remember asking him if he'd come to North Carolina with me, knowing that was a terrible idea. And thank God he knew that too, and he said no. But it's still, I had to ask because it was so hard at that point to think about leaving him. So finally, I left on the day after Christmas. It was, it's just the strangest thing, like the 6 weeks of being with him, and then spending Christmas Day with him, which the only thing we could do, like, I packed up all my stuff at that point. My car was like packed to the gills. I had this little Nissan Sentra. Her name was Pearl, and it was completely stuffed with all my stuff. And so it's Christmas Day, and we're together, and I was just trying to distract myself from how scared I was and how sad I was to be leaving him and to be leaving Texas and kind of my big dream that hadn't really panned out how I thought it was going to. So we went to the movies, which I discovered is something that Americans do on Christmas Day. It's like you get enough of your family, so you have to go to the movies so you don't have to talk to them anymore. And so we went to the movies, and then the next morning, I woke up at 4 in the morning to drive back to North Carolina. And my dear friend Emily, who still lives in Austin, had agreed that she'd drive back with me because I didn't think I could do it by myself. And so all my car is packed and everything's ready to go, and I wake up and I kind of get ready, and then he gets up and comes downstairs to say goodbye to me, and it just, in that moment, was impossibly hard, and he was just like the sweetest, softest thing in the world to me at that time, and I was like, I can't, this is so hard. And he just kissed me on the forehead, and he just said, go. Aww. And I just turned around and I walked out the door, and I got in my car, and I drove across town to where my friend Emily lived right off campus of the University of Texas at Austin. And she got in the driver's seat, and she drove me the entire way, 24 hours, to North Carolina without stopping, pretty much. And if I was awake, I was crying. And the rest of the time of that drive, I was asleep. And save for, I think actually we stopped at Applebee's on the way home. Because we wanted some chocolate milkshakes, and they didn't have any, and that just about sent me into tears again. I was like, this isn't okay. But she delivered me home, and literally then got on a plane and flew back to Austin. Wow. So, yeah, delivering people where they need to go. In a way, looking back on that time of my life, I don't know who I'm more grateful for, the one that nudged me or the one that carried me the rest of the way home. But either way, now I see how much that love meant to me, and how many different ways we can love people, and it's not necessarily about staying with them, it's about seeing where they'll go next. So, thank you.